Hi, my name is Jeffro, and this is Digital Dominance, the podcast for service-based small business owners who are ready to seize the recognition and growth that their company deserves. You've worked hard to build a business you're proud of. Now it's time for Digital Domination. Welcome back to Digital Dominance. Today's episode is all about taking control of your Facebook advertising. And I'm thrilled to welcome Eric Saar, owner of Slingshot Media Consulting. Eric has an impressive track record, having taught over 1,200 clients and more than 500 agencies as a subcontractor for Facebook. He knows firsthand how to harness the power of Facebook ads. Since leaving Facebook in 2021, Eric has been on a mission to help businesses escape the pitfalls of unethical, inefficient ad agencies by empowering them to run their own campaigns in just 4 hours a month. So if you're spending $10,000 or more on ads and are tired of agencies that don't have your best interests at heart, this episode is for you. Eric, welcome to the show.
How's it going, man?
Good. I'm excited to talk about this. So, Eric, let's start with your background. You've trained over 1,200 clients, including hundreds of agencies. What's the biggest mistake you see most Facebook ad agencies making that ends up hurting businesses?
Some basic mistakes. We'll get into probably some of the weeds, but just things that I call the structure of Facebook ads, where we find people kind of shooting themselves in the foot metaphorically, where they're not able to understand how the algorithm works, and instead get pretty short-sighted, not understanding the long-term view of what Facebook ads are meant to do and how they work. And so they'll kind of have that be a problem and the thorn in their side, as it were.
Do you think that those agencies are actually malicious, or are they just simply incompetent?
A little bit of both. I've met some. I remember, I don't know if it's an agency this time, but one person I was looking at their thing. I was like, man, you got 50,000 reviews. Amazing. They're like, no, we're just lying about that. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, what the heck?
What?
Like, he basically said that. I was like, I'm not calling you out on that right now. I'm not my own company right at the moment. That was when I was at Facebook through the subcontractor. But yeah, so some of them were incompetent. They just had no idea. And then others, I literally had someone, I remember maybe 6 months ago, someone came up to me and was like, yeah, I've heard this agency that was never wanting their own client to look at the client's own ad account because of how little they were doing and how bad it was run.
Yeah, that's pretty shady. I imagine there's, on the incompetence side, there's probably people that want to do well. Maybe they took a Facebook course once and said, this is how you set it up. And now they do it that way for every client and not figure out any nuance or adjustments they need to make based on the type of business or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So every ad account's different. Even in the same industry, ad spend levels, it's just every environment's different because there's probably, 100 million ad auctions going on every second. And so every typical environment's different. So you may just get in the wrong place, get up against the wrong competitor that's hitting the same people with a lot more ad spend. But also the same thing you're talking about is like a Facebook ad objectives, they're doing the wrong one. But like you said, these people, the bar is so low, the bar's in the ground. Like people say, I know how to make Facebook ads. Well, yeah, you can get to the word published and it'll be published. Does that mean it's good? Probably not.
Yeah. Well, so here's then the most important question, right? If I'm the business owner, how do I know if I've hired someone who knows what they're doing versus someone who doesn't?
Well, one thing I try to avoid, at least when I talk to people who have agencies, is one thing I'm trying to, let's talk red flags. Like I wrote some articles that we can link or something, but like a lot of agencies I find have their fee tied to the percentage of ad spend. I think that is a big red flag because one that pressures you to spend more than you're willing to afford means they're not in it for the long term. They're not in it to help you grow and increase your profit margin. They're only there to increase their profit margin. So that's a problem. If you see almost anybody using traffic ad objective, Facebook ad spend, that is bad as top of funnel, like the main ad, it's fine for retargeting, but for main ad, it's really bad because what happens is they'll say, okay, we're getting you a bunch of traffic to your site. It's your fault it's not converting. You know what Facebook profiles these people as? People who click on links and do anything else. If they did stuff from clicking on the link, they would be converters, and they would be a conversion ad, which is more expensive. So what they're doing is they're saying that they get a lot of basically action off of the ad that they've made for you, but by definition, they're amazing click-through rate, but it will not convert. But Facebook can't be perfect, so maybe it can't only tell you that these traffic people will only click on the link and not buy it. So maybe one will buy it, and you'll be like, oh, fantastic, I'm getting so excited. But it's not made for it. Also, we know touch points, if you don't have your retargeting set up and you don't have your e-commerce, your funnels, your CRM stuff, it's like 13 touch points to make a sale, especially depending on what business you're in and what kind of lead funnel, lead time you have to make to sale based on cost of the product and how much consideration is necessary for it.
Gotcha. So yeah, look for the red flags and make sure they're not using, just saying, oh, it's your fault. Because obviously there are going to be some scenarios where if they're delivering the right traffic that is targeted and is not converting, okay, that might be your fault on the landing page. But if, like you said, it's just all the traffic, then no, the problem is you got to do a better job getting it in front of the right people and getting the right people to click.
And there's way more red flags. I'm not going to go into all of them right now, but like hit me up. Like I'll go look at your ad account for free and tell you if your agency's screwing you over.
Nice.
I would love to. That's my goal, is to stop these agencies from taking advantage of people.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I appreciate that offer too. So guys, don't forget to take them up on that. So here's a little bit of a trickier scenario. Let's say they're getting, 2x ROI or ROAS, right? How do they know if they could be getting 8x without like making a really dumb move and walking away and turns out, oh, wait, they were the best in my industry or whatever I'm doing. Nobody else could touch that, right?
So part of it is what I call the structure stuff. So I mean, I can only do my best to know from what my experience is. So I would have to look at the ad account. It's always ad account specific. So looking at the thing, I say, okay, you're doing the significant edits thing wrong. You're doing overlapping ad sets wrong. You're doing ad objective wrong. You're doing the wrong hook, basically, for instance, based on what you're doing. Oh, targeting can be wrong. Retargeting is insufficient. Ad spend is not helpful, bid gaps, etc. Lots of different things could be happening. But also, we always talk about return ad spend is not profit margin. It's not contribution margin. So be careful when people say we're getting you a 2x, but that doesn't usually include their management fee, doesn't include your cost of goods sold and your overhead. So be careful about that.
That's a good point. Always check that math, because they might be giving you a number that makes them look good. And if you don't double check that, you might be missing something. Okay, so let's talk for a second. You advocate for training in-house teams, right, to manage ads in just like 4 hours a month. So I'm curious how you arrived at that time frame. Kind of what are the core principles behind that and what actually goes on during those 4 hours?
So the main thing that happens is that Facebook needs time. I'm actually doing the full little teaching on this because it's so important. So Facebook basically takes your big audience of people, right? You do your targeting, you have your audience. Let's say that these are things that you can't see, but this is how it works. There's sub profiles, maybe it's not profiles, but sub categories and audiences inside that big audience that Facebook decides, like for instance, cat lovers, whatever, right? Now we never see what those are, but A, B, C, D, E, F, right? And as the ad goes, you see what results you're getting. Facebook says, okay, we have 3 results of whatever your goal is from C and D and E, but not the other ones. So then they put more money into the ones that are actually working. So if you do the way it's supposed to work, you'll get more of what you're looking for, and it'll help you refine it. If you don't do it with the algorithm, you're going to be confusing it over and over and over again. So it needs time to do this. So learning phase is usually a week. It's 50 results in a 7-day period generally. That means it's optimized, but doesn't mean it's like done. So what happens is there's a lot of people on day 2, day 3, you have terrible ads because it just is starting to figure out that big audience where the results are coming in. We're seeing results coming in, but it hasn't narrowed its targeting from what you gave it yet. Hasn't figured out where the results are coming from and gotten you more of those people. I did an ad for like $6,000 and I had other targeting problems and like business model problems on my side. But Facebook ads is a really good illustration here. Last April, I believe it was, $6,000 of ads. The lead cost on the ads on day 3 was $8 per lead. On day 14, it was $4 per lead because it figured out how to go after the people. So basically every month is 2-week tests. And so during that time, you need to not touch the ad at all. You can look at it as much as you want. So 5 seconds a day, whatever, but you shouldn't touch anything. Otherwise, you're going to sully the data and mess it up. So you only need to look at it for an hour or 2 every couple of weeks.
Well, that makes sense then. Are there any indications on the ad dashboard that tells you, hey, we're in this phase right now. Give us time to figure it out?
It says the learning phase. It says right there, and it says active and then learning phase. We're in the learning phase.
Okay.
People ignore it a lot. They don't know what some of the things mean. And they say, ad not doing well that I like on day 2, I need to make changes. And by changing it, they literally make the data completely invalid.
Well, and then you're starting over from scratch each time, right?
Each time. And you have no basis to make good decisions on.
Right. So you're just randomly jumping around. And then you give up and declare that Facebook ads don't work.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you see that a lot, which I know is frustrating because Facebook ads can work. If you sounds like the algorithm is going to do a lot of the work for you as long as you structure things properly. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, they even figured out broad targeting in the last year that they hadn't figured out for 4 years. Now you can almost not even do targeting for some people, some niches, and as it's a test than a test. It's one of maybe 4 things that have mattered in 5 years. Everyone's saying it's changing all the time. The buttons change a little bit, but nothing really matters that much.
Okay, so we've been talking about Facebook ads though, but I mean, we have Instagram and like Meta, that's all under the same umbrella. Does this same setup apply to all of them?
It's all through Facebook Ads Manager. So Instagram, all of Instagram, it's called placements. So all of Facebook, all of Instagram, all of Meta, it's all called interstitial ads. All different places where you can see an ads are all through what's called Facebook Ads Manager and Business Manager. So it does apply to all of them, regardless of where your placement is. You're going to want to do all of them anyway. It'll keep your overall impression costs down.
Gotcha. Okay. So what are some of the like essential skills or insights that a team needs to, stay on top of this, checking it once a week, 4 hours a month, right? What are they actually going to do in that time when they're going in there?
Well, what you're doing is you're reading the metrics. I've literally had people turn off the best ad set because they thought it was the worst ad set because they didn't know how to read amounts spent in the metric that they're looking at. It's hard to look at and make sense, but I teach it. And so understanding what you're seeing. Second, the split testing. I do not use this Facebook split test method. It wastes some ad spend because it's too scientific to me. And I can explain that more for people.
What is that?
Well, basically that
too scientific.
It says so. For instance, say you had 2 ads, and it has to put for a scientific Facebook ad split, A/B split test. Use the same amount of money on both ads.
Okay.
If one sucks and one does amazing, you still spend $500 on both ads. But if you use in my version that we cultivated when we were working through Facebook, we use basically the ad algorithm figures out which one's doing better and pushes the money on that. So you'd maybe spend 80% less on the one that wasn't going to work day 3 or 4 in, and then way more money, $800 on the one that actually did work and get better results. But it's also, I have a pretty rigorous split test method that has to keep some rules. So when I teach basically a rhythm that forces you to apply the rules that work with the algorithm so you can't make the mistakes.
Gotcha.
Like it avoids them by definition.
Okay, so it's just a little bit more agile and kind of following what's working rather than staying true to the test of like, okay, well, the last few people might all click yes on this side, right? But you should have a good indication before the end of the split test, it sounds like.
For sure, because Facebook will find those subdivisions and figure out which ones are working.
Right.
Yeah, go for it. I forgot what I was going to say.
Does Facebook ever tell you what those subdivisions are, or is that just an invisible piece of the algorithm that it knows and nobody else knows?
Yeah, okay. I don't remember. I don't even know what they are, but I know that's how it works, and every time I watch it, that's how it works.
Okay. Makes sense. It is a complicated thing, and it's hard not knowing how the algorithm works. So I understand people getting frustrated or whatever, but it does sound like it's good enough that you can trust it if you set it up right to do something good for you rather than tweaking it yourself.
Here's a good time for a story for like some actual things that have happened, right? I had these golf club guys come to me last summer 2023, selling golf clubs for like a couple $100. And our first set of ads that I ran, put in $2,000, got $14,000 out for them. Obviously, half of that is cost of making the golf clubs, but like they don't have to work anymore. They just get to run Facebook ads and iterations of this on copy and creative and go from there. There's many more like that.
Have you seen, sorry, there's a bit of a lag there, but I heard, it sounds like that's a great result. But my question is, how long does it keep working? I mean, I imagine it will just keep working as long as there are people to show the ads to, but at some point you might exhaust your market. And how do you know when you need to change it up? Either the creative, because people have stopped clicking on it, or something's been overused in the marketplace and now people are skeptical of that. Would you have any tips on that?
So generally, an ad creative is gonna die at 2.5 months.
Okay.
At least sometimes. Some people find that their stuff is randomly working way longer than that, and usually, but you're always going to be wanting to iterate. So every 2 to 4 weeks, right? You're doing different copy, creative audiences, etc., and testing them against the winner from the previous iterations. So you're always moving it around. So there's no decision fatigue. There's enough people on Facebook that it's not. And you change up so for instance, traffic people are different than conversion people and video view people and lead people. So if you switch up how you're talking to people, you'll get different sets of audiences, even if in the targeting section, it's the same exact 40 million people or whatever. Also, of the 40 million people, you get 23,000 impressions. Like for $600 or whatever. So you're hitting such a small fraction of the audience. It's going to take a long time for you to never get to it.
Target audience is too small, because I know sometimes if they're a local business, they're like, I only want Lake Forest, California, or Santee, whatever it is.
So that's why I don't do Facebook ads for small businesses, because from what I've seen at least, and it's experience, there's some exceptions, but you pretty much need to be either in the top 10 cities so you can get like 500,000 to a million people in an audience for somewhat of like a local home services thing. But the best people either do broad targeting, and I'll give an example of that in a second, or like generally when I was at Facebook, we were doing like 30 to 70 million people in an audience, and the audience size and the ad set level. And that was like the really good meaty person. Now, most people were doing like 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, but they were over detailed targeting, meaning that they had so little people in the actual audience because it was too hyper focused that not enough of them were on platform enough for the money that they were spending to be used on enough people to get enough results to cover ad spend. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Okay, so then if you're a local business and your market's just small, you might be better served by putting that money elsewhere.
Well, then you'd probably do video views, reach, and just retargeting. So you can you just blast the zip code with ads to increase brand awareness, but you're not trying to you just do it as more of a fixed cost at that point to increase brand awareness than actually trying to see. The problem is, especially if you have a walk-in business, promo codes are really the only way to do it. I've only done like twice the in-store stuff. It's just almost impossible to tie sales to ads. So you just want to use it at fixed cost and say, we're going to spend this much all the time on ads just to the zip code, and just continue to change.
Just keeping yourself top of mind, if you're a realtor or whatever, so that way when they're ready to sell, oh yeah, these guys always have their commercials on, I'll talk to them, that type of thing.
But it's much more targeted and helpful than billboards or like TV ads, unless you're a huge company, right?
Okay, so it's still useful, obviously. You just need to know what you're getting out of it, and that would be a case where you don't go to your agency and say, hey, how come I'm not getting conversions? And like, well, you need impressions, right? And that you need to understand that's why.
You can't afford or attribute those conversions, so why even bother? So why just go for the cheaper stuff? Because reach is like cheap, like it's less than cents like per person.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so real quick, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier. An ad creative might die after 2.5 to 3 months. If someone's doing their own ads, an hour a week, what part of that do they say, okay, I'm going to design a new ad from scratch and relaunch it? What's the process there for knowing what to change and how to go forward?
Yeah, so the graphic design part is like separate from that 4 hours. That's not usually, I'm talking about the managing ads. In terms of what to do, you want to, like, for instance, you want to avoid your white backgrounds because it'll get lost. I once had this amazing whiteboard video of something that was so cool, and it got like no one saw it. Like, you got impressions and no one actually did anything because couldn't see it. So you want your vibrant colors, you want your stuff that feels like a non-ad, right? Or unless you're like a huge famous company, right, that has the brand awareness for people not to care that it's an ad, right? So you're just trying to test different hooks, different thing, go to the dreams, dreams, and doubts. What are the people caring about? Emotional appeal without being manipulative, and then go from there. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. So, I mean, it's not necessarily just the one guy who's going to be checking the ad. There's probably going to be some other input from people deciding what our next round is going to be. And then that one guy goes in and plugs it in, sets up the campaign, and hits publish, right? Yeah,
correct. But the reason I say it this way is that they can have, as an owner of a business, when needing to do ads, and you have like, say, 3 people on the job, you can have, I've taught a lot of these people, you can have one of your people who's in the marketing area do it as one part of their job rather than having an agency where you have brain misalignment often, and they can do it as like 1/5 of their job rather than all this craziness.
Right. Because it's just one more thing to kind of keep tabs on, and it's related, but they're not going to spend all the time.
And you're going to save a lot of money than having an agency spending $5,000 having the same amount of time spent, but also you have no agility, and there's this like expertise outsourcing that causes so many problems, because then you feel like you don't have to think about it. But what happens is if the ads don't work, then you feel like you want the control back anyway, and they have incentive to not give you the control because they want to keep you paying. So they have to make you feel dumb to make sure that they feel like the expert. I'm not about that. That's just...
Yeah, no, that leaves a bad taste in your mouth, obviously. So it's best if you can keep it in-house and do most of it. And occasionally, if you're stumped, then bring in a consultant like you to be like, hey, this is what you need to fix. All right, bye, see you later. Have fun.
Exactly.
Okay. So another question I have to ask, since we're talking about this, I know there's an option to boost a post, like in a pager group or something. In the past, I've always heard that it's terrible, not worth it because it's expensive and not very effective. But I've also heard from business owners who said, yeah, I boosted a post and I got some sales on it. Then I tried to run ads in Facebook Manager and put the same amount on the ads and got nothing.
So here's it's sort of like a human behavioral thing. When you boost a post, you don't have access to the things that you could do to mess it up because you don't know where it is yet.
True.
And so when you boost a post, you just boost it and it does its thing for a little bit and then it'll figure it out. So I think so. Yeah, boosting posts is like before you can get the ads manager. It's what people do when they don't have any clue what they're doing, which is fine. It's not the worst thing. It's basically brand awareness. It's reach. You're not having anything happen. It's almost too small of an ad spend to really get good for your bigger. It's a lot of people, the local businesses do it because one, that's all they know how to do, and second, they only have to reach a certain area and they care about reach. But if you have to do any kind of attribution, you're not. I mean, boost posts this isn't going to work. And if you know what you're doing, like me and some agencies do, you don't have enough information or data to use from there. I mean, you still get the same data, but it's not in the right format. It's not. You can't check your significant edits. You can't do a lot of stuff.
So yeah, as long as you see an immediate uptick in sales, then sure, keep doing it. But otherwise, might not be worth it.
If it's working, then you need to bring someone in to do ads more and scale it. Because the problem I have a lot of people is they do Facebook ads with an offer that they don't know goes to cold traffic, and then get mad when it doesn't work to cold traffic. It's like you didn't test the model against cold traffic. You need to give it enough time. Now, you should get results from ads, but know that the ads could be better. Like I was running someone's ads, $50,000 a month in ad spend for essential oils influencer for 10 months. And the person before, this is how I'm talking about agencies. I don't know if I told you this when we first met, but the person before, so this guy knew what he was doing. He wasn't like the one to get duped, right? But the guy would work for him for 4 years, I think, and he was targeting the company Fila, like the shoe company, for essential oils. Complete mismatch. I go in on day one and go fix the targeting the way I know how to. And from what I'm told by his email person, I doubled the email engagement rate, and it was affiliate offers and stuff on day one. Doubled it. 10 months times 50,000. What is that? $300,000 of ads later, and not one single ad got removed or undone because I know what to avoid doing in the health space. And we got his best month ever for the month of June in that June.
That's crazy.
It was a bad month for him. And then we had things and figured out hooks and figured out, like I said, broad targeting, that for him, for his specific ad account, we had to keep all our broad targeting under $250 a day, and it would scale with as many campaigns that we wanted. But that's a rare find, an interesting signal. But you have to split test correctly and be courageous and have the money to do it right.
Yeah. Well, for a company that's a little larger like that has $50,000 to spend, they're committed long-term to ads to getting it right.
And that's why
that's why they succeed. But it's also why there's so much room for improvement. Like you mentioned, like just correcting one thing has such a huge amplified effect because of how much they're spending and how many ads they're running.
Especially avoiding like audience overlap there, because what you can do is you end up bidding against yourself in the auction if you have too many of the overlapping ad sets. Oh man, like again, here's the big one of my famous stories I tell really quickly, about 60 seconds. I had this guy that was doing life insurance in Canada. He had an appointment setter, he was doing pretty good, but literally the most boring copy I've ever seen. It was so boring. It wasn't spelling errors, but it was boring. And it was life insurance, right? So his literal, I can't believe this is true, literal picture was a gravestone on grass, like a stock photo, trying to scare people about life insurance. Now, obviously, I wasn't there to go fix the copy and create, even though I can do that now. I got my MBA, I had a journalism degree, whatever. But my goal was to go fix what I call the structure side, the significant edits, the overlapping ad sets that we talked about. I go in and 2 months later, without touching that stuff, I tripled his revenue rate. And I helped other people get their, like some baby clothing brands get their best month ever, best Black Friday ever for people. Like if you go fix this stuff and an offer is already good, which is oftentimes, at least in the last 10 years or 5 years, online brands who save people money for niche items. So baby clothes that they don't have to get in the store that are whatever, clothes, or e-commerce is obviously a really good place for this. But doing something online, like Harry's did the shaving thing over the big companies, they have more figured it out. Doing the direct to subscription model, even though subscription models are going away now. Anyway, it's very interesting.
Yeah, so all that to say, even with boring ads, if you structure it properly, you can still get decent results.
Yeah, I mean, it's what it means is fix a structure and then iterate on copy and creative for the rest of the time.
Right. Okay. So have a strong, structure, and then all the other stuff can flourish. Essentially,
you split test the rest of the time, and that's you're fine, and you're just going to keep improving.
Yeah. I love that. It's so simple. And, Eric, I think a lot of owners really do want more control over their Facebook ads, but they felt helpless, or like you said, their agencies made them feel dumb, and they're like, well, I don't want to screw it up type of thing. But I appreciate you being here and kind of giving us a way forward through that to make sure they understand what's going on and actually can take a little bit of control back.
Yeah. The other last thing for these agencies, like most agencies are like $2,000 a month. If you're paying like $5,000 a month, you need to come talk to me. Like I just met someone who makes $5,500 a month on ads, ad management fees, not ad spend.
That's crazy.
And I had someone last March that was spending $60,000 a year on an agency, and their ad account was so messed up. And I taught one of their people in 4 hours. Now my program's 7 hours, but like now they're saving $60,000 a year.
That's huge. And probably getting a better return on the ads anyways.
Probably
right?
getting a bigger return. So it's not, even if I do nothing about the ads, I can save you time and money. So anyway.
Awesome. Well, guys and gals listening, Eric's LinkedIn profile will be in the show notes. So be sure to reach out to him if you want help training your team to run your own Facebook ads. Or like you said, if you just want him to come and take a look and be like, hey, are things messed up? I have no idea. He sounds like he loves to do this in his spare time. This is all his time. So hit him up. All right. Last question for you, Eric. For those who are just starting to consider taking control of their Facebook ads, is there one thing that you recommend to start transitioning away from that, from the agencies?
Not sure how to answer that. That's an interesting question. You're talking more about something to do or how to get away from an agency?
Like, what's the first step? Yeah. Do you look at a list of red flags? Do you bring in someone like yourself to do an audit?
I mean, I love to do an audit of the ad accounts because I feel like I have a such better, more like 100% sure of what I can give them and tell them when I see an ad account. But if you guys don't, I mean, obviously come talk to me, but like, if you don't have me, I wanted this to be applicable. Yeah, you're wanting to avoid edits. They're there. You can see when an ad has significant edits in one of the columns. If it has significant edits and you didn't touch them, but other people did, that's really bad.
Mm-hmm. That means it shouldn't be changed too often.
It shouldn't be changed at all. You need, I forgot to mention this. You need to duplicate the ad and make a new version and publish the new version, turn off the old one forever. So you should never be republishing any ad. But if every time you republish, it causes a significant edit, and the ad gets more and more confused.
That's good to know.
But that's like what I mean. Like my process solved that problem. None of my clients ever end up doing that because I taught them how to do the rhythm that's different.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So guys, go connect with Eric. Thank you again for being here, Eric. And thanks to all you guys for listening. If you found this episode helpful, please leave a review on iTunes or Spotify. Now, good luck with your ads, and I'll see you all back here in the next episode. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to the Digital Dominance Podcast. This show is brought to you by FroBro.com. If you are a B2B service provider and you're ready to transform your website into a high-converting, lead-generating sales tool, go to FroBro.com/revive to learn more.